Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of my podcast. Today's podcast is entitled Have Your Own Code, and as usual, I will begin this podcast with a quote. Part of being a man is learning to take responsibility for your successes and for your failures. You can't go blaming others or being jealous. Seeing somebody else's success as your failure is a cancerous way to live, and that's a quote by Kevin Bacon. As a man and as a woman, we need to have our own personal code. And what this personal code will help us do is it'll be a compass in times of uncertainty, those times that we'll be in the valleys and the low points in our life. It'll make decisions easier because you already know before you come to that point in time, what you will and what you will not do, so then it'll help make decisions a little bit easier because you have your own moral, ethical, spiritual code that you stand by that takes away certain decisions and certain factors out of the equation because it goes against your code. So it makes decisions a whole lot easier to make. And your code gives you a line that you won't cross. Again, that moral or ethical line, spiritual even, that you just draw in the sand. And when it comes to making decisions, if any factor plays into or against that code, it makes it easy because you're just not going to make that decision because it goes against who you are and what you stand for. A personal code is a philosophy you have about your life and the way you want to live it. You determine what defines you, the values you want to work towards, and what you will base your decisions on. And all throughout history, there have been instances of all these type of codes that people have gone by. I list a few later on in the podcast. I'm not gonna jump into it right now because then that would, cut the experience short somewhat. But throughout history, everybody who's been successful, everybody who's been accomplished, everybody who's been daring, they've had their own set of codes or their own, set of personal responsibility that they held themselves to a higher standard. Like, other people may do this, but this is not for me. Or, other people may partake in this course of action or decide to go about achieving success this way, but I'm going to take the road less traveled. And for everybody, it's going to be different because we all don't have the same experiences growing up. We all don't have the same type of family dynamic. We all don't have, the same type of religious background, religious upbringing. So what might be considered right for this person may not be considered right for this person. Not that either one of those people are wrong. It's just a whole bunch of variables outside of their control that they were exposed to that they now have to act upon or choose not to act upon based upon, the journey that they take in life. It's all, situational. We can't control where we're born. We can't control what family we're born into. We can't control, what city we live in and how we're brought up. But, it is what it is. It's your life. You got to own it. And from the stimulus that you're given and from the basic foundation that you have to build the person who you will be and what you will become through the experiences that you go through. It doesn't matter what other hopes, dreams, expectations are for you. This is your life. Live your calling, and your personal code should reflect your calling. Your personal code should be in line with your dreams. Like, you should want to imbue or exhibit the characteristics that are going to be in line with the person who you will become. If the person that you will become is not going to be a person that lies, that cheats, that drinks alcohol, that smokes cigarettes, that does any of that stuff, and again, there's a bunch of different things, and I'm not saying those things exclusively because those are bad habits, even though we shouldn't lie and we shouldn't cheat. Everybody has their own vices, and I'm not here to judge anybody. In my walk of life and as far as my moral and ethical code, I see lying and cheating as things that I cannot do. I can't cheat and I can't lie. That's just, the code that I've set for myself. Has it happened in the past? Yes. I'm human, and to be human is to be imperfect. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but my code lies heavily in the realm of trying to keep myself out of those situations and being as truthful as I possibly can in every circumstance, and to try to not cheat the process, because I've started to understand that, and whatever we go through or grow through, You can't cheat the process, because a big part of the journey is the process, it's not the destination. And there's a lot to learn through the process. So if you cheat the process, you cheat the experience, and then you might, miss out on the major lesson, which is in the journey, not the destination. But I just threw those things out there, because in most realms, lying and cheating are considered to be bad things. Now, a lot of people smoke and a lot of people drink. And I'm not saying that, that makes you a bad person just by doing those type of things. I chose not to smoke and I chose not to drink because of the lifestyle that I chose to live. I choose to live a life of, a high physical expectation. And from what I've learned and from what I've understand and studied and researched, smoking and drinking is not conducive to a healthy lifestyle. So that's why I choose not to smoke or drink. For anybody who smokes or drink, it is your life. Do what you have to do. I would highly recommend that you stop at some point in time, sooner than later. But again, I have no heaven or hell to put anybody in. I'm just on here having a conversation with you, and we're both trying to get better. So that's why I threw out those examples. A perfect example of a personal code is the one practiced by samurai known as Bushido. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the Bushido Code. If not, it's something really, really interesting that you should look into. It's one of the many codes that have dictated the way people act throughout history. It's the Bushido Code is mainly for the Asiatic cultures. It's not like a European code or something that we adopted in America later after our founding. But it's something that, samurais would practice. It was a way of life. It was a way that you conducted yourself that was seen as honorable. If you were a samurai, you lived by this code. It was just assumed. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. One always equaled the other. You couldn't be a samurai and not practice the Bushido Code. The Bushido Code is a chivalric code of moral principles that the samurai followed. These principles included rectitude, courage, benevolence, respect, honor, and loyalty. When choosing to become a samurai, this code was vital to the men who embraced it as heir. These people were so bound by this code. They believed in this code so much, and this code was so intrinsic to the person that they were, to the character that they were developing, that if they dishonored the code, if they dishonored their retainer, if they dishonored their name or whatever, they would commit, ritualistic suicide. That was seen as the only way to serve like a recompense for what you did. You had to take your own life if the thing you did was severe enough, and if your retainer deemed it necessary. But I mean, different societies have had different type of codes and called for different type of things. Not all codes that we have dictated or people have dictated their lives by or their journeys by have called for such an extreme measure. Some would say this extreme, but I'm sure if you ask a samurai and you place a situation where that would be necessary, they would say, well, I mean, that's the only option. That's the code. Another good example is the Code of Chivalry. And I know we're all familiar with that, the chivalric code, and opening doors for women, stuff like that. The Code of Chivalry was a moral system which went beyond rules of combat and introduced the concept of chivalrous conduct, qualities idolized by the medieval knights such as bravery, courtesy, honor, and great gallantry toward women. This is where we get chivalry. Like some people will say, well, chivalry is dead. No, I don't think so. It's just times are changing. The more times change, the more things change, but it's always the same. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing new under the sun. It may take many different forms, but it's still out there. It still exists. Opening the doors for people, calling people ma'am and stuff like that, buying roses for dates and stuff like that, opening the car door on your first date, stuff like that. That's like the chivalric code. And again, for certain people that may be commonplace. Like that was stuff that I grew up being expected to do, and it started when I was young. I would open the door for my mom, open the door for my grandma, for Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, I would get them roses and flowers and I always treated them with a high regard, because they were the women in my life, and I cared for them and loved for them. So it was expected that I treat them that way, and I was trained to treat them that way, and nothing less was expected. Anything less, I would get corrected for it. But that's not the case in everybody's household. And I'm not saying the Bushido Code or the Code of Chivalry are codes that we need to dictate our life by, but we need to create some type of code. We need to create some type of guard to the lifestyle that we're living, some type of check to keep us on the right path, to make sure that we're making the right decisions. Kind of like when you go to the bowling alley. If you've ever gone to the bowling alley with kids, you can go and ask them to put up the bumpers, and they'll put up those little bumpers on the side, and you can throw the ball down, and instead of going in the gutter, it'll just bounce off the bumpers and hit the pins. That's kind of like what a code does for you. You may face adversity, you may come up against hard times, you may come up against difficult times, but those bumpers will be there, which are your moral codes, your ethical codes, your spiritual codes, just lines that you've drawn in the sand that you will not cross, as far as like your character or anything like that. They keep you from veering off the path. They keep you on track. And then eventually, if you stay on track, the fastest way between 2 points is a straight line. So if you stay on track, eventually you're gonna hit your mark. Now, life seldom travels in straight lines. I know my life hasn't traveled in a straight line. A lot of my friends that I talk to, their lives haven't traveled in a straight line. But again, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. That code is something that can help you get back on track, even if you veer off of that line, even if you get away from who you're trying to be and where you're trying to go. And even if you veer off of that straight line that you've dictated that is conducive to your success, sometimes you might need to take another road, or sometimes you grow out of what you think is success, or what you think is the ideal way to achieve who you want to be and who you want to become. So sometimes it's not so bad to take a different path. Sometimes it's not so bad to sidestep, but you want to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, with the right intentions, and that it doesn't go against any of your codes, moral, ethical, spiritual, what have you. When we choose to walk a certain way or live a certain lifestyle, certain things will not be acceptable for us to do and participate in. The reverse is also true, meaning that certain things will be required of us and certain things we will have to participate in. Like working out, for instance. If you work out and you want to lead a healthy lifestyle and obtain a certain physique, there's certain foods that you're not going to be able to eat. There's certain things you're not going to be able to drink. There's portion control. There's caloric deficits that you might have to be in sometimes. You might have to fast. Like, all of this is part of the game. If you're trying to be somebody different, you have to act different. You can't be the same as everybody else. Everything is not for everybody. You have your own path, and you've decided to take this path for whatever reason. And I don't know what that reason is. There's a lot of reasons why people do things, but you chose to take that path for a reason. And when you choose to take that path, there's certain behaviors that are expected of you and not expected of you. Like we talked about in the realm of working out, all those things that I just mentioned are what's not expected of you. Now, what's expected of you, you're going to have to work out. You're going to have to practice self-discipline. You're going to have to drink a lot of water. You're going to have to watch the nutrients and minerals that you take into your body. You're going to have to, up your protein intake. You're going to have to probably eat some of the same bland food over and over again, chicken and rice. That's just some of the things that you have to do. That's not all the things that you have to do. But if you want to achieve, personal health, if you want to achieve a certain type of physique, these are the marks that you're going to have to hit. It just is what it is. Now, depending on how intensive your goal is, it might be to a lesser amount or to a greater amount, but you fall in there somewhere along the line. You will fall in there somewhere along the line if that's the lifestyle that you want to lead. Everything is not for everyone. Your path is unique. A perfect example I like to use is the military. I believe that anyone who feels the desire to serve their country can find a branch that fits them. And I don't know if people agree with it, but I feel pretty confident in making this statement. I feel that if you want to serve the military, if you're called to serve your country in a higher capacity, if you want to join an organization, be a part of something bigger than yourself, get training, have great experiences, travel the world and stuff like that. If all of that is for you and you feel that the military is the best way to execute those dreams and those goals, I feel that there's a branch for everyone. Now, in saying that, everyone can't be a Marine. Everybody can't be a soldier. Everybody can't be an airman. Everybody can't be, like, everything is not for everyone. But I do believe that somewhere in those branches, you will find your ideal spot. Now, from the Army to the Marines to the Air Force to the Navy to the Coast Guard, you have a ton of jobs. I'm talking about a ton of jobs, anything that you could think of. So anything that you can imagine you would do in the civilian world, you could pretty much do it in the military capacity or in the armed forces. So if you feel that you are called to service, then I feel that there is a branch for you. Again, just like any goal, career path, any way that you see yourself maneuvering through life, you need to do your research. You can't just do something because someone else did it, or you can't just do something because, oh, it looks cool on TV. I want to be viewed as hardcore, or I want to be viewed as, special. You got to do things for your own reasons. And the reason you got to create these reasons is because when you get into those hardships and when you get into those difficult times, all of those commercials and everybody you talk to and all the people you wanted to impress, they're not going to be there. It's going to be you on your island. And what I mean by your island is going to be you with your emotions, with your thoughts, with the pains, the hurts, and all of that other type of stuff. So you got to have something that motivates you, something that guides you through those dark times and the good times, but something that keeps you focused, a compass that guides you to take you through those times so you can get to the better times. Because there will be rough times. Boot camp is not fun. There will be rough times, but then on the other end of it, there's a lot of fun to be had. There's a lot of fun to be had. Now, fun definitely takes on a different meaning depending on what type of job you have in the military and whether you really like the choice you made and stuff like that. But I had fun. I use the military example because I was in the military and that was the job that I had for the longest part of my life so far. So it's something that I can really relate to and something that I can explain to others that I feel they would be able to relate to. But it's the same in life. If you're choosing to be an engineer, if you're choosing to be a police officer, a fireman, a medic, if you're choosing to be a judge, a lawyer, a teacher, you can't do it because your parents want you to do it. You can't do it because it seems cool, or even money. I'd say I wouldn't do stuff for money. I do stuff because I want to, intrinsically. Because when I was in the Marine Corps, there was a lot of things that sucked that we did often, but I just loved the job of being a Marine. That it wasn't that bad to me. It wasn't that bad to me. I mean, it's easy for me to say looking back at it, but I really don't see nothing I went through as like horrible. You know what I'm saying? And then I always had people around me who liked what they did and were enjoying where they were at that point in time. So they were also in like a motivated mindset, and even if we were discouraged, we picked each other up. You need to surround yourself with people of a like mind. You don't want to go into a career field where you hate what you're doing, then the person next to you hate what you're doing, and you guys are just clocking in to get a paycheck. You're not getting any enjoyment from a job or anything like that. You should align with something that allows you to express your true self. And your true self should be written in that code that you use to dictate who you are and what you will do, your character, if you will. So again, thank you for tuning in to another episode of my podcast. This is something that's been weighing heavy, on my heart. I've been doing research into other codes, mostly samurai codes, the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths. I've been really digging into a lot of this different stuff because I feel that it's really good ways to guide your life, or really good ways that you should live your life by. These are codes that you could, commit to memory, commit to your heart, commit to your soul, and then, when you go through this path, when you walk through this path, You walk purposefully. You don't wander. You always got a destination in mind, and you always got these codes in mind, so that when you come against a trial, my mindset to accomplish my goals is what's going to push me through. And these codes is that I've committed to memory and committed to my heart, of what's going to keep me on my straight path and what's going to keep me focused and keep me motivated. So I hope that you got something from this podcast. I know that it's been a while. I've been sick and kids, and it's been crazy. But life goes on. You still have to go out there and you still have to get it. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of my podcast. Have a great day.